if you're going to do something, you've got to want to do it. And and there's so many opportunities to, like you said, just to kind of phone it in and just make it happen. But for me, being connected to brands that have purpose and being connected to being able to really see a difference when you're doing something is it makes it really impactful. It makes it worth the squeeze, if you will.
Welcome to Connect to Market. I'm Casey Cheshire. Join us as we learn from marketing leaders who are driving founder-led growth. We're sponsored by Ringmaster, building B2B podcasts and communities to reconnect you with your audience. All right, we are doing this. Welcome back, everyone. I am excited. You are about to meet an absolute badass from the community. You've probably been in a breakout session with him. You've probably rubbed elbows, done some ideation. I'm excited to introduce you to him. Global marketing leader. He's an author. He's a brand and growth strategist. You name it, land, sea, and sky. He's done it. He has a deep background in the world of advertising. He has won so many awards. His room smells of many leather-bound books. The Amy's, the Effies, the Webbies, maybe one day the Caseys, you name it. He's gotten awards for campaigns, including some really powerful consumer insight-driven campaigns, which we're going to dive into today. Vice President of Marketing at Precision Aviation Group, Josh Cherfoli. Welcome to the show, sir.
Casey, thank you for having me. I truly want to subscribe to the Casey Awards, so just let me know where the link is, and I will get some things submitted.
We will get on that right now. And the award fee is beer.
That is a fee that I can. Are you good with splitting the 6-pack?
Yes, that accepted.
All right, done.
You have been accepted into the 2025 Casey Awards. Well, hey man, I want to roll up the sleeves here and learn from you. And I gotta ask you this first question. It's the question we start asking everyone, which is the spotlight is on you here. So let's see here. Josh, what is the number one thing that marketers need to do in order to connect to their market?
I wish I had a foam finger with me.
We'll get you a foam finger. What is the one thing the marketers need to do to connect to their markets?
I got to go with understand your audience.
Boom.
3 words: understand your audience. And I think, kind of to peel that back a layer, as some, my boss here says, let's peel that onion back. If marketers only focus on one thing, it should be that, deeply understand your audience. But you got to go deeper, right? So you can't just think demographics. You got to go into motivations. You got to go into fears. You got to go into goals, and then put that all into context of how are they engaging with your brand? How are they engaging with your product? So that helps you kind of wrap that bow up.
Yeah.
And then I think that, you can take another layer deep, and you can say, like, what do they actually care about? And what do we want to say, instead of what do we think that they want to hear?
Yeah. Because we have that biased opinion of like, I think I know what they need to hear. They need to hear more. They need to hear more of my product. Yeah, that's what they need.
Now with more product, you slap that starburst on the side of the product, and now it's more product.
We kill 0.9999 more bacteria.
Exactly.
Right.
You just got to walk past it, and it takes care of you. So
the shampoo that's now 10 times bigger than the other bottle.
Yeah. Now with more shampoo. So I think, maybe something that goes unsaid is, I think great marketing isn't necessarily about being louder. You don't want to just shout louder. And that's what I think a lot of things, people will fall into that idea that if I put an exclamation point on it, now it means something more. But I think you've got to resonate deeper. You've got to, kind of get into that empathy and the data and understand you have to be willing to listen to what your customers are saying before you can, really get into it. And I think that's, a lot of the campaigns that I've been a part of that have been really successful, they definitely have a brilliant idea behind it, but that brilliant idea doesn't necessarily come from somebody in the corner of a creative suite saying, we must do this, it's usually the informing the creative team to say, this is what we're trying to solve for. And that insight becomes that great idea.
Yeah. Well, I feel a little bit like I'm in that movie Inception,
Oh,
where we had the surface level. Oh, this is the campaign. And you're like, no, no, go deeper. Okay. Demographics. No, no, go deeper. Motivations, fears, goals. Oh, no, no, go deeper. Now we're like in some weird, super deep land with sideways buildings. What do they really care about? And we keep going deeper. How do we get ourselves to be at that level?
I think it's going all the way back is that you
Yeah.
have to be willing to listen. And let's play into that Inception kind of, commentary for a second.
Yeah, please.
That movie worked from the idea that they understood who they were targeting, right? They understood those nuances of this guy does this and this guy does this. And so those were the pathways into the dreamscape for them to kind of get into it. So marketing is no different than a movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that you won that Effie, right? I mean, can you give us that example about how you dove into the insight and how that drove you to create a campaign that ended up working?
Yeah, that's I love that campaign, and yeah, it's the award is on the wall next to all the leather bound books and the
Yes.
and the extra special items, but yeah, that campaign was called Engineered for Magic Every Day, and it was for Porsche, and like we said, it won an Emmy, but I think the key there was how it shifted.
Wait, did it win an Emmy?
I'm sorry, an Effie.
Okay.
If I won an Emmy,
You probably wouldn't be talking to me right now.
well, no, we'd have retainers, and I'd have a bowl of only blue M&Ms or something like that.
Blue M&Ms, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, sometimes I say things and they maybe become true or maybe they don't. Maybe I'm putting that out into the universe, and Emmy is in my.
You know what? I like that. Put that out there.
Put that up.
So engineered for magic every day. What was the challenge?
So the insight came from kind of looking at like our sales landscape. And so we were at the time we were feeling that sales were hurting a little bit. And so we were kind of in the middle of, there was an economic downturn at the time. And so we were trying to figure out what was the cause of it. Was it pricing? Was it just economy? What was going on? And so we were talking to the owners, and the owners were all saying, this is great. We love the car. I have this car and I use it all the time. And when we were talking to some people who were non-owners, they were on the outside of the brand. And so we did some focus groups and we talked to non-owners, and that idea of a Porsche for them was this gem that was put up on a shelf and never touched and only used when it was a Tuesday above 82 degrees and the sun was, all this kind of garbage. And so the insight really came from that idea of talking to the intenders, but the people who didn't pull the trigger. And those were the ones that said, I can't justify the purchase because I only would use it 2 days a month or something like that. And so trying to then wrap that into a campaign concept was, well, the light bulbs start going off is that the owners are using these cars every day. We have to demonstrate to the non-owners that these are cars that can be used every day. And so that coming back into some of the Porsche isms is that engineering, there's this German prowess, all this stuff. So that engineered for magic, and then we bolted on every day, gave us that runway to say, all right, now let's talk about how these cars are your dream car. They're not too precious and they can be used every day.
Right.
So that was kind of that moment of clarity, and that, we were able to kind of put Porsche into this mental category of it's no longer for special occasions only. And they're not a status symbol. They're not, only for shows and things like that. These are things that we can be used for real life. And it was, it was kind of in that idea of that's, let's frame this for something that can be used every day. And there was a couple of um, really interesting examples that came up that we brought to life as part of the campaign. And so we had a couple of print ads, we had a TV commercial, and a ton of web content. And we can get into all of that if you want.
Sure.
But there was this one kind of concept, and I can't take credit for the execution of it, but there was, when I worked there, we had a really nice perk of we had some we had company cars that we could drive around, and so it wasn't a bad gig to have to drive one of these cars.
That's a pretty good gig.
But I would, it was the car that I had. So if I needed to go to, the home improvement store to get mulch for the weekend, that was the car I would take to the home improvement store. And the guys loading mulch would lose their mind when I just would open the trunk or pop open the frunk and put mulch in there. And because they say, this is a Porsche. I'm like, yeah, but I can clean it. I'm like, it'll be fine.
Wow. So yeah, that perception, you were even experiencing it when you would go to home. Yeah. I mean, even I'm feeling the same thing, right? Even hearing you say this, I'm still thinking like, man, you're going to put mulch in that thing? Like, damn.
And it wasn't, and I, at the time, maybe I was feeling a little bit of,
Totally.
some coolness of like, yeah, I can roll up in this car and I can throw some mulch in there. But there was this, it was almost like this confluence of, in inception, we got to the right level and all the things started to happen properly. And, everything slows down and like, wow, that's an insight that we can demonstrate to those not those detractors, but those purchase intenders that didn't pull the trigger and say, this car can be used. And, so we had shots of a yellow 911 pulling up in front of the school, and, the mom's driving the 911 and her son's buddy are sitting at the steps of the school, and they jump up and get in the car and drive away, and it's like school bus. You wouldn't think that you're going to bring kids home in your 911, but you do it every day. If
You do it every day.
Car you've got. So those were, kind of the insights that we kind of showed that real utility. And of course we did it in a way that we didn't lose the Porsche magic or the mystique about it, but it was fun. And, if you want, we dig into some of the UGC that we built out to kind of ensure that it wasn't true puffery.
What's UGC?
I used an acronym unapproved. I'm sorry, buddy.
No, I love a good TLA. Bring it on.
That's it. So UGC, just shorthand for user generated content.
Oh, see, now I'm an idiot. Like I should know that.
But it's probably that's more of an early 2000s type technology, right?
Oh, so you're dating yourself.
But so that we wanted to make sure that people didn't just think, this is just the marketing team at Porsche just, blowing smoke and saying whatever. So we stood up a website that was engineered for magic, and we sent out to, not all of our owners, but we sent out flip cameras to our owner base as a direct mail piece with the ask of film yourself using your car in these everyday situations and send us the video clip back. Keep the video camera, as a gift from us, and we'll put all that content up on the website. So we had stills, we had videos of people using their cars, and we turned it into a poster and all sorts of stuff. And there is if you dig hard enough, there's a picture of my kids sitting in the frunk of the 911 that I had at the time. My son's holding one of those plastic Star Wars lightsabers, and my daughter's sitting in the frunk, and I was just like, loaded to the site because it was real.
Dang. You know what? But so smart to add that in there because you're right. I mean, the org can say that you do this, but man, to see pictures of people loading and the lightsabers, the mulch, to have the UGC happening, gives it so much more depth and social proof.
Yeah, I think that was, it definitely helped cement the campaign and anchor it in some reality. And then some of the TV work that we did was, came from that notion of, well, these people are already engaged. So we reached out to those people who sent us their stuff, and we sent an actual crew out to to talk with those folks and interview them and it
Yeah.
became the backbone of some other video work that we were doing. So it was really cool. And, the FE probably, part of the FE is the effectiveness of the campaign. I think that's probably the shortened version of how they got to FE, but I'm not certain of that. But we saw like a 19% increase in sales within the first 6 months of the campaign. So I think that it was something where we were able to connect those dots and really make them resonate, and open the brand up to the people who were sitting on the fence, or the people who had said, "Gosh, I can't touch it."
Yeah. 100% the fence sitters, right? I can even see people in the store, and that might just push them over the edge to be like, maybe they came in not affording the status symbol. They wanted that, but they thought, I mean, I need to kind of drive this thing, but I don't want to wreck the value. And then they see maybe some videos and some pictures in the dealership of this thing happening. I could see them.
Yeah, yeah, and
Flip.
it's definitely an expensive car, right? So
Oh yeah.
it's not something that is it's not a mass market vehicle. So there's
Right.
definitely a niche audience that anybody who's an intender is already kind of self-selected into that audience level. So
100%. Yeah.
I maybe our narrow casted audience feels a little bit easier to get after for for that type of a conversation, but it worked. It worked.
Yeah.
And I got hardware to prove it.
Yeah. You get the hardware. Let's go.
I think a ton of credit goes to the agency at the time. Kramer Krassel was the agency at the time. They were they're based out of Chicago, and they were
Okay.
a long time agency for Porsche. And we used them for forever.
I feel like it almost didn't matter though by the time it got to Kramer, because like to your very first point, you had to go and get that information, get that insight. So even thinking about nowadays, just in the B2B marketing world, how do you recommend, how do you do this? You and then the people listening, how do we go and get that level of insight from our buyer?
Yeah, well, that and again, maybe I want to make sure that that we give CK some of that credit, because
Yeah.
they ran the focus groups to help us prove out the concept, right? And
Sure.
so, but that I think that that's maybe some of those things that we had to start with that truth and really understand that audience. So I think that that's going full circle. That was proving out that we knew who they were.
Yeah. And then executing a full ass campaign around all of the factors. Man, powerful, powerful.
Yeah, it was cool.
Um,
I was. It's one
yeah,
that I'll forever be proud of, and we'll look back upon fondly. And then even I think the creative still stands up today, even in with all of the changing demographics and media tools and things that are out there. I think the campaign still could stand up, and be successful if they were to restart it today.
and that's the mark of a campaign that gets at the actual core buyer belief or misbelief, right? Like that's whether it's, done in, 80s motif with bright blues and greens, or if it's, the grunges of the 90s, like if the core concept is there, like I even wonder if like Wendy's, where's the beef? It would still apply, because if you went to McDonald's, that there isn't really any beef for you there. So
Yeah, it would be. I mean, I would relish it. I used a sorry, dad, inattentional dad relish pun on top of burger, but uh, but I mean, think of here's some free marketing for the Wendy's guys, right? If
yeah,
think of the audiences, who are the people that are probably buying the most the most fast food right now? It's folks like me and you who grew up hearing "Where's the beef?" and resurrecting something like that might not be a terrible thing to do, and
yeah,
playing on those ideas of you've got a little bit of nostalgia, you've got some heritage,
play on that. Yeah,
play right into that idea that it's it's still, they are still standing above their competition because they've got actual beef on a burger.
Right. Never frozen. Yeah, yeah,
There,
yeah.
why not?
Why not? Why not? Well, I want to shift a little bit because you're part of this community, and I love your take on it. Like for those listening, you know, what's it been like going to some of these community events, rubbing elbows with your peers, that kind of thing? What's it been like? And do you recommend it for those listening?
Oh, absolutely. I think that it's very beneficial. And I think that helps marketers stay sharp. So kind of having being a marketer today means you have to always have all these multiple input streams, right? So you have to be able to connect those dots and hear from different people, hear from different perspectives, and understand the kind of the patterns that other people are seeing. So
Yeah.
the forums that you've created, Casey, do that. It allows us in that broader group to kind of set the table and then move into the subsessions where we get the value of just staying in close contact with some peers uh, and agency, kind of connecting all those dots. So bringing any of the experiences that we've had outside of that session, from our agency partners or former team members, we can bring that into those sessions and use that as, guideposts or a way to help bring the discussion forward. And just, like I said, just stay sharp. So I think that it's a huge value for people to want to want to be part of it. And I think I'm definitely going for the record for the most consecutive sessions. So, mark that one down. But I think that it's definitely valuable, and people should want to be participating. And I look forward to it when I see the reminder saying, it's time to
Time.
one of these sessions next week, and it's time, or for the 15-minute warning, it's time, so
Yep.
it's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome, man. That's all. And one of the things we wanted to do to kind of activate the community for those listening is what's a challenge you're currently tackling that you'd love some insight from anyone who maybe has gone through it or have an experience or an app to share. And then what's a challenge that you feel really comfortable helping other people with if they happen to experience it?
I think that one of the challenges that I've had that I want to kind of talk about um, is how do we really bring forward this idea of crossing I guess the digital divide maybe sounds too formal, but let's bridge all of the interactions that we have with our consumers. So moving them from digital to physical and then back to digital, or from physical to digital and back to physical, right? So we need to have a mechanism um, to transport the consumer across those different those different mediums and those different tools that they're interacting with us as brands. And that varies significantly if you're a B2B or you're B2C, but I think the concept still holds true. They're seeing us on our websites, or they're going into a retail, or they're contacting one of our salespeople. So finding a way to kind of bridge that would be a really interesting dialogue and a discussion to say, how do we really anchor this down and turn this into something that we can all capitalize on.
It's a really interesting area to highlight. I guess I hadn't really thought of it. Like the idea of like, yeah, hey, that having these one-to-one connections is great, but you have the physical things that happen and then digital things, or sometimes digital, then physical, then digital. And doesn't digital just want it to all be digital, you know? And how often do you have something physical happen, then you can't track it what worth a darn, or it just feels different, and it's not really not tracking, or just the flow of it. You're not really, it's almost like two separate universes. They get maybe two separate experiences of your company.
Yeah. And you think about it, like I'm sure that you've had an experience where it just it's the most seamless experience that you ever had. And as the consumer, you don't even really think of like, holy cow, all of those touch points behind the scenes just came together, and I think one of the probably the places that do it the best are some of the really high end hotels.
Yeah.
The Ritz's kind of thing.
Right.
Not that I frequent them because it's out of my wallet typically to be there, but there's plenty of case studies that you could read that help demonstrate how those work. But think of that experience. There's typically a booking that's going to happen online, and then you show up at the counter in person, and they already know, oh, Mr. Casey, thank you for coming up.
Yeah.
We got your room ready for you because they know
Yeah.
that you're already there. They connected all the dots, or maybe even a car dealership is a good example too.
Right.
You booked the service online, you show up at the service desk. If they don't know that you just showed up, the experience starts to fall apart and you're already frustrated because you're there. And so the things start to crumble behind it. But if
Yeah.
you were able to say in that car dealership example, I booked it online. I'm going to be there at 2:00. And when I pull into the service bay, somebody should be there to say, Mr. Josh, I'm sorry that you're having this trouble with your car. We'll get it
Yeah.
taken care of you right away. We've got a loaner car available for you, or, it's going to be 25 minutes. There's some
Yep.
coffee in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Build that experience, right? And
Yeah.
when when you receive your vehicle, it shouldn't just be, oh, the keys are over there and it's in the far corner of the parking lot. Have a nice day. No, it should be,
Right there.
we know you're coming up. The car should be either warmed or cooled depending on, the time of year, and it should be clean. It should be taken care of. And if there's any questions, call my cell phone kind of stuff. So I think
Yeah.
there's so many applications to connect those dots and to understand that kind of the mechanisms behind the scenes that allow us to do it. If it's the CRM system that you're using, or if it's just simply, brute force it. I saw the sales form come through. Now I need to plug it into the lead sheet that the guy's going to have at the front desk. It doesn't have to be super technical. It just has to be done.
It doesn't have to be super technical. It just has to be done. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, super technical makes it easier once you get the
Right.
technical side done. But
Right.
yeah, you've got to find a way to make it work.
And even conferences, right? When I think about, some of the B2B settings, like just how often do we just gobble up that badge scan and then remember nothing of the convo that happened?
Yeah. Yeah.
In
That's a somebody reminded me not too long ago of there used to be a thing we would do in the agency world a long time ago, and they were call reports. And it used to frustrate me because they were called call reports. But it was basically at the conclusion of any meeting with the client, you wrote down the report of that interaction. And it needed to be, I met with Dan, we talked about this, he asked for these, we had lunch, we did this, and then we agreed to these next steps. And that was the call report. And it was sent back into the leadership team so they could, justify why I just spent $100 on lunch or whatever it was. But it was also to make sure that it focused us as account people to be able to know, I just committed to these 5 things with the client.
Yeah.
I better fulfill these 5 things with that client based on the deadlines. And so that goes into the work order, essentially, of saying, on Monday, I've got to do this. On Tuesday, I've got to do this.
Damn. Josh, next question. Who are you? Who are you, man? How do you know all these things? Okay, take me back in time, little Josh days. Did you know you're going to be marketing leader to the stars, Effie's, Amy's, Casey's, Emmys, all the things?
I love it. You got Casey's in there. So it's going to happen, brother. It's going to happen.
It's going to happen, dude. It's going to happen for sure.
It's going to happen. I did my Wayne's World Wayback Machine, right? Like,
Yep.
I don't recall it 100%, but I've been told the story, and I have vague, kind of fuzzy memories of me as an 8-year-old. And at the time, my dad worked for American Motors. So if you remember American Motors from way back, they were the the original owners of Jeep and all kind of
Mhm.
the AMC Gremlin and the Pacer, all like a Wayne's World call. I did 2 Wayne's World
Totally.
references right there. Um, and so he always had company cars that were in the driveway, and he was responsible for marketing and merchandising for Jeep when I was growing up. So that
Yeah.
probably gives me a little bit of that nudge of I want to be just like dad, which I kind of followed in his footsteps. But the reason I brought that up was I my mom reminded me of a time when my dad had brought home a catalog of the new model year of the Jeep, the Grand Wagoneer when it first came out, and he had one of the cars in the driveway. And so I had taken the catalog and I was out in the driveway proofing his catalog against the vehicle that was in the driveway. And I told him, I'm like, the wheels are different, Dad. The wheels that are on this one are not what's in the catalog. And he took it away and he's like, you can't read it once it's been printed. Yeah.
Really? So you found like a typo?
Yeah, it was the image of the wheels that they had shown in the catalog didn't match the production vehicle that was in the driveway, and so I had called them out. So that was one life lesson that I remember. My dad saying, "You can't read it after it's printed; it's too late."
Right. Right. Yeah. Once
Uh,
the brochure has gone to the printers, man,
once it's printed,
you're
it's done.
done.
But that, I think that was probably, that way back long ago of saying, I just loved the intricacies of understanding the print production, the catalog productions, the marketing that goes into deciding how that's going to be laid out and then
Yeah.
turning it into a product. And so that probably pushed me into wanting to be in the advertising agency when I was growing up in Detroit, supporting the big three autos way back when. And then I got an opportunity to make the jump from the agency side to the client side when I left the agencies to go work for Porsche, and then it's just been uh, just a freight train just trucking along since then.
Jeez. Away to the races at that point, man.
So from Porsche, spend a little bit of time over at the Home Depot, which if you're in Atlanta, you have to work at Home Depot. I think it's on the card.
It's required reading, working. Yeah.
But yeah, I think I signed a document that when I changed my address, I had to start there. So I got that one, and then spent some time over at Georgia Aquarium, which is pretty much the coolest place that you could be in. And having the privilege of working there and supporting the marketing of the aquarium was really awesome.
Yeah.
I got to swim with whale sharks. I got to go in cage dive.
Actually swim with them?
Yep. I got to swim with the whale sharks, which if you're ever in Atlanta, you've got to go to Georgia Aquarium, spend the extra day and buy the swim with the whale shark program. And you actually get to go in the $6 million gallon tank, the habitat that the whale sharks are in, and you can snorkel with them. If you're scuba certified, you can dive.
Really?
It's amazing. Absolutely incredible.
And they'll just swim around you and
They just are thinking, oh, there's Casey. No big deal.
damn. Yeah. Damn, look at that. $250. That's a no-brainer.
Done. You got to do it.
Once in a lifetime. Right there.
Yeah. And the aquarium did such amazing programs to support veterans and military,
Wow.
being
Cool.
able
Yeah.
to allow people who are having trouble after coming out of military with some post traumatic stress.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
An hour in the ocean voyager habitat with the whale sharks can fix a whole lot of things. It's not going to fix trauma like that, but it can give you a moment of respite that allows you to kind of push on. And it was such a cool program to be part of. And the idea that, we were helping, protect the oceans and save the planet and all of those kind of good things was really cool. And now I've got the opportunity to make sure that airplanes are still flying, helicopters are flying, our first responders are in the air when they need to be. Those the folks that are securing the border are flying in those airplanes and those helicopters, and military DoD type contracts. it's a really cool time to be at PUG as well.
Man, yeah, I was gonna say like, and I can definitely tell the connection, the passion connection from what you're doing and what you've done in some past roles to, it's not you're not just showing up and clocking in and doing marketing. You're really helping with the bigger purpose.
Well, I think that if you're going to do something, you've got to want to do it, and and there's so many opportunities to, like you said, just to kind of phone it in and just make it happen. But for me, being connected to brands that have purpose and being connected to being able to really see a difference when you're doing something is it makes it really impactful. It makes it worth the squeeze, if you will.
Worth all that work to make it happen.
Yeah, there's always trauma, and there's always we screwed something up, or we missed a deadline, or who knows what kind of chaos that we're causing downstream. But you're in the moment, you're going to make it work, and you're going to make it right.
Powerful. I have a next question for you that is a bit of a hypothetical question. All right, you ready?
Maybe.
Oh,
yeah, wait, what do I got to come back into present time?
yes, present time. I may or may not have a time machine up here in New Hampshire.
Okay.
So you come visit, do a big event in Boston, drive up north, we get some beer, some lobster, and I do have a time. It's in the backyard, covered in tarp. Okay. So we use this time machine, but it's a particular kind of time machine where you get to go back in time and visit yourself 4 days after getting that marketing degree from Michigan State. What do you tell yourself?
The Rams will win a Super Bowl. The Lions will get close, but don't bet on any of them. No, I
feel like that's a haiku poem. That's
yeah,
great.
no, 3, 4, 3. I wish I was smart. I think that I go back and ensure my younger self that the path feels right, continue on it. And don't worry about the money. It'll come later.
Yeah.
Eventually, hopefully it'll start coming. Figure out who's going to start paying. But no, I think that's probably the most sage advice is that follow the path that feels right, and it will get you where you want to be. I had my oldest son, was talking to one of his friends last night, and he asked me, a hypothetical question. His girlfriend was on the phone, and she was thinking of the next apartment. Her current lease is up in August, and she's got a line on a new apartment, that she would potentially be able to move into in July, but was concerned about the roommate that she had lined up hadn't fully committed. And so she was trying to weigh the choices. And maybe it was a rash decision on my part, but I said, if she really likes the apartment, she's got to pull the trigger on it. And then as she gets closer, if that potential roommate flakes, she can find somebody else to come along for the ride. Like you can always kind of find that path forward. But I said, if you want it, you got to do it. Otherwise, you're going to sit there, and then August will come, and now you're scrambling because you don't have a place to live. And I did give her the caveat that there's plenty of room at the house, that she doesn't have to stress about that, but she's welcome over at any time. So, just a way to kind of make the example of, if it feels right, you got to do it.
Yeah. I feel there's got to be so many more regrets for not taking action than for taking action, Hopefully, if you're a good person, you're in jail somewhere.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Follow the path. It actually kind of funny, reminded me of, I really want to go see the Patriots play a Super Bowl. And back in the day, kids, we had a lot of opportunities for that. Not so much anymore. This is the humble stuff that comes after in the wake of a hurricane. But I really wanted to see one, right? Yeah. And so I was gonna go. Couldn't get anyone to go with me, right? I was like the roommate situation. Couldn't get the roommate, so I didn't get the apartment. I didn't go. And that was the time they played Atlanta. They came back from like down by 28, and it just now I watched it and I basically had a heart attack watching it, but I could have been there in person seeing that. So I did eventually go in a future year, and they didn't win, but it was still worth going, you know.
Yeah, but you're right. Like you had to fulfill that
Yeah.
dream, and think of how amazing it would have been, that roller coaster that you would have been sitting down here in Mercedes-Benz Stadium thinking,
Yep.
"Oh, the Falcons have just beat the Patriots," and then they didn't.
They did. Yeah, sorry to rub it in. Sorry
Just
to rub
like
it in.
the Patriots just stomped. Yeah, it still hurts a little bit. It's
A
still
little bit. Sorry. Well, I lost to the Eagles, the one that I went to, so that hurt too.
well, if it does make you feel any better, I did grow up as a Detroit Lions fan and still have a sweet spot for the Lions, and eventually they'll get to the
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're a Lions fan, you probably need to be in counseling, you know?
yeah. I think a lot of Lions fans counseled themselves in bubbly brown liquid.
Yeah. It's a warm stadium, whether the heat's on or not. Um, yeah, but you know what's interesting? When I did go to that to the Super Bowl myself, I I still couldn't get in a roommate, right? In your metaphors, couldn't get anyone to go with me. Um, and I didn't even have tickets lined up because apparently you don't buy them when you go. Um, and you don't buy them beforehand. And so I flew to Minneapolis, no tickets, a room at like an Airbnb, which it was a super cool, like this house with a bunch of young professionals. I walk in the door and they're like drinking wine and playing Settlers of Catan, and they're like, "Come join us. Here's a glass." I'm like, "Okay, this place is pretty sweet." But yeah, but like I didn't have the ticket, but your advice was so right, though. Right? I went there and it all worked out. It all worked out. And I would have been kicking myself if I had told the story of missing 2 Super Bowls, you know?
And even if it hadn't worked out, right? Like if you'd gone there and you were able to secure a ticket to get in, you still had that experience of, I got myself there and I had
Yes.
wine with these guys
Yeah.
and they invited me to play weird games with them, and but it was all above board. And
Right.
you were still in the arena, in the arena of the Super Bowl as opposed to, on the field.
Yeah.
But I think that those are things where you start doing stuff and you make it happen as a result of like just either sheer will or the universe aligns, and it just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. Man, powerful. Where do you want people to reach out to you if they want to connect with you?
Probably LinkedIn is probably the easiest.
All
I've
right.
got, I've got contact up there. I've got, regular messaging. People kind of come and
Sure.
go. Like the folks from the roundtables. I've connected with almost all the folks there. So we've got
Awesome.
got those dialogues that happen. But yeah, LinkedIn is probably the easiest. That way I don't have to worry about remembering phone numbers and email addresses and whatnot. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the only Josh Cherfoli on LinkedIn. So
Dang.
yeah, I'm the only one.
The only one.
Yeah.
Boom. That I feel like that's special. You need to hold on to that.
You can thank my parents for that because they didn't make me change my name to Tom Smith or something. So
Right. At least it doesn't rhyme with Foley,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I
Foley Foley, you know?
so a little funny story. When my oldest daughter was my wife was pregnant with my oldest daughter, my mom came up with this greatest idea. She's like, her name's got to be Jolie. And I said,
Yes.
"You're right, Mom. It's a beautiful name, but I'm not going to do it." She's like, "But why?" I'm like, "Because I can't make her name sing-songy. It can't be Jolie Tripoli."
Jolie Cherfoli. Yeah.
So,
Dang.
so
Well, you're a nice dad for not doing that. That would have been.
yeah, I named her Orville instead.
See, I like that. There you go. That works. That works. Unique and fun, but also doesn't rhyme. I think that's the key part right there.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on here. I don't know, we've been in our own time warp. Like time is just whoop, whoop, zapped by. So
It's
thank
awesome.
you. Learned a ton. We went deep, learned about how that FE came about. Man, the stats, the UGC to back it up. Just a masterclass, man. I appreciate you.
I am happy to do it. I'm glad that we were able to do it. And you're right. We definitely have peeking over at the clock over there. Yeah, we time warped it. We time warped this thing. So it's
Hell
awesome.
yeah. Hell yeah. For those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, then share this with someone else, right? Who needs to hear it? Hey, we got some good wisdom here in some of these stories, but who needs to go deeper in their inception and their thinking about their buyer and the idea of the call reports and definitely the idea of not betting on the Rams or the Lions. Who needs to hear this? If you know someone who is, please help them get out of that and give them this episode. But with that, Josh, thanks again, man.
You're welcome, Casey. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me on. And let's keep it rolling.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. For those listening, this has been another exciting episode of the Connect to Market Pod. We will see you all next time. And that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at connecttomarket.com. Connect to Market is sponsored by Ringmaster, creating podcasts and communities that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth.